So this afternoon, we're starting off with labor agitations. The Public Services Workers Union is asking government to include over 30 state agencies in the payment of the controversial Neutrality Allowance. Already, the strike by the civil and local government staff is biting hard as government institutions have been dormant due to the withdrawal of their services following government's failure to pay the controversial Neutrality Allowance. In a letter cited by Joy News, as we know, the Public Services Workers Union are also demanding fresh negotiations as they claim employees of some 36 state agencies have been neglected. So we'll bring you excerpts of that demand in a letter which has been tabled before government and the Labour Ministry. Excerpts on your screens right now. It reads, "We express our warm regards to you and further request for urgent grant of political neutrality allowance to qualified members of the Public Services Workers Union." Now, it continues to read that having followed developments surrounding the political neutrality allowance for some public sector workers union workers, it is pertinent to state that the grant of such allowance to a section of the workforce to the neglect of others in the same or similar category would defeat the underlying principles of salary administration in Ghana. Now, the group is also making further claims that if you look at the Constitution of Ghana and other enabling acts, we have laws which requires a number of public sector institutions and their workers as well to be politically neutral in the discharge of their duties. This includes, but not limited to, the Electoral Commission, the Commission for Civic Education as well. We have the National Media Commission and the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. For instance, these are organizations that are supposed to be neutral. Now, at the last National Executive Council meeting of the Public Services Workers Union held in Kumasi, which is way back in March 2022, members resolved to bring the request to your attention and to the attention of the state for urgent consideration. We therefore call for urgent engagement on the matter. Now, here's another point to note. While we anticipate your favorable response, be assured of our availability for necessary engagement to avoid any unintended industrial disharmony. So that's a notice clearly being stated that we may suffer more havoc with regards to our public institutions if government fails to negotiate with the Public Services Workers Union. They have close to 36 state agencies under their watch as well. But why are they making this demand now? Joining us now via Zoom is Bernard J, General Secretary of the group. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. So many believe that you're simply latching on to the earlier demands of clock sag and making fresh demands. Are you being fair to government in that regard, particularly when we know that you've not been part of the initial negotiations?
Thank you very much, my brother, and good afternoon to you all and to your listeners. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about some of these issues that are affecting us in the public sector, especially as public sector workers. First of all, I mean, the letter has been very clear in what we are asking or what we are requesting. And the issue about fairness, we will say that the state or government, for that matter, has rather been unfair to some public sector workers. Now, when we started the single spine, the advent of the single spine was to resolve very critical issues in public sector salary administrations. And apart from ensuring that there is equal pay for work of equal value, as our laws prescribe, another leg of the policy to make sure the policy works very well was the harmonization of allowances, certain allowances in the public sector. And we've been trying to do that for over 10 years now. And it's rather unfortunate that the state, or for that matter, government and institutions that are tasked to ensure that we observe these things are taking decisions and embarking on actions that may be bringing back some of these challenges that we've been trying to resolve in the sector. It's very simple. We have a Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. There is a pay policy. We have all been trying to live with the principles of this policy. So all we are saying is that if, for the sake of the work that a group of public sector workers are doing, they deserve some allowance, then per the principles of the policy, you would have to know and understand that it is not only those few group of workers that deserve to benefit from it. If the principle of harmonizing allowances.
And what's shocking is that you're concluding that this is a clear case of neglect. You state that clearly in your letter. Why so?
Definitely. So we expected also the policymaker to ensure that I have several public sector workers under my ambit, or that I am taking care of. And if there is something such as this, political neutrality, we know that it is not only this section of public sector workers or civil servants that are entitled to this, or that are required, as has been explained to us, that this allowance is being given for the fact that either the act or the work of these people are such that they are not required to engage in certain political activity and therefore required to be neutral. Of course, that is the explanations we've heard. And this matter just didn't come up. It has been in the offing. We've heard it. We've tried to make the necessary contact, speak to people in authority so that we could understand what is going on, because we had made it clear in our informal engagements and other engagements that, look, this neutrality allowance you are talking about, or that we have heard going on, if we really want to pay, or the state is ready to pay an allowance like neutrality allowance, and the reasons that have been given, then there are other public service workers that should be considered. Of course, CLOCSAC is a union that has the right to negotiate, and I appreciate them. They are my colleagues. We deal with them. So I am happy if they have been able to negotiate something. For that is it. We are not in any way competing with CLOCSAC.
And in fact, the name of the allowance itself.
The fact is that we have a policy, and it is our responsibility as stakeholders, and therefore in the spirit of social dialogue, to ensure that the principles that we have agreed to govern salary administration and reward and compensation management are followed. So all we are saying is that, fine, there is an allowance that should be paid for people for a particular purpose. There are other category of workers whose acts, the examples we stated, for instance, Electoral Commission, NCC, is very clear that per the nature of their work, they are not allowed.
And that's where another set, and Bernard, just allow me if you would, that's where another set of controversy comes to play. The fact that some Ghanaians are not able to come to terms with the name itself, neutrality allowance. Why pay you an allowance if you know the type of job you're going in for? I'm in the media, for instance. My job requires that I am apolitical, at least. But I'm not. You don't necessarily get that. So it's not a general practice. So that name, neutrality allowance, the name in question has been a subject of controversy. You agree?
That is wonderful. That's an excellent question, and that's the beauty of democracy. We would all have differences of views, opinions, and ideas on issues. But once we come to an agreement on what is best for the state, what is best for the workers would always speak from the challenges that are confronting them in the work they are doing. And generally in salary administration and reward management, there are things that you don't pay as part of the basic pay. There are allowances and things that are occasioned, by the exigencies of the work. So there is no qualms or arguments about that. However, there are institutions charged to perform certain roles. As workers, we would always come with our demands, and we will give reasons why we think that our demands are justified.
So you're basically telling us that you deserve this controversial neutrality allowance.
Well, so that's what we are saying. These are all matters for negotiation.
Yeah, but let's look at
it. All arises out of challenges that arise in the work.
Right, I get you. But look at the list, for instance.
I'm happy that at the National Labour Conference, we have even agreed to review the single spine, because there are things that as workers we believe should have been factored, in the job factors that were determined. After 10 years of implementing what we have, to review, to make sure that certain risks and things that are associated with the work that we do. I will let you take a chance, do some documentary or something. Try to interview workers who are on the ground. And some of your colleague journalists of GBC, for instance, who are covering stories in let's say, a conflict situation. Interview some electoral commission staff, NCC staff, when they are involved in this electoral process and the challenges they face, even houses where they live because they are electoral officers, the challenges they face. Now, out of these challenges and difficulties, the workers are making demands that, look, out of these challenges and difficulties we face, these things were not factored into the job factors.
Okay, I get the point.
Determining our condition.
Precisely, I get the point you're making.
It is for the policymaker to agree that we sit down, we look at these things, and if they have not been adequately factored or taken care of, they are taken care of, then that speaks for the argument from the other side, that if you know the work you are coming to do, these are the risks, these are the things inherent, which in salary administration we know will be factored in determining even what the basic pay and things are.
For Sam, basically, Bernard, what you're doing is worsening the situation. We're going to have, for Sam, a prolonged industrial action, not just by CLOGSAG, but this time around, you're adding 36 more state agencies. So, I mean, to be fair to government, do you feel that government will be able to provide the allowances for all of these state agencies? Already, it has a chunk on the table now from CLOGSAG. You are adding some 36 more state agencies. I mean, have you even put the figures to it? And how many people are we looking at in total?
Thank you very much. I think we are really jumping ahead of ourselves. It's a process. We, as Public Service Workers Union, do not take delight. And in fact, no labor union takes delight in just declaring an industrial action. Now, we have written to our social partners, our stakeholders. These are our concerns that we've raised per the letter you have just read to your listeners. Now, what we believe in engagement, and that's why we stated that clearly in our letter. We believe that we are going to be engaged. We will sit at the table, and once there is understanding and agreement on how to handle the issue, whether it is by change of name or it is by agreeing that this is what we want to do, or it is whatever agreement it is. Once we reach an agreement, there will be no need for any industrial action.
So which means it's firmly on the table. It's firmly on the table, the issue about an industrial action. How much time do you have to wait, at least for
us now, what is at the table is that we've requested for an engagement. Now, let the engagement come. It is the outcome of the engagement that will determine whether there should be industrial action or not. But as I sit here as General Secretary, I've listened to the concerns of my members, and I have taken the necessary action that my members demand of me, and that is to request for that engagement, which rightfully, per our labor laws and the processes we've agreed, is good. Our stakeholders, that is government, fair wages, and have not yet or in any way indicated that they are not ready to engage us.
Have you engaged?
Once they engage us, we will go through the engagement. And I believe with the way we do our things, we are definitely going to reach an agreement that will be an amicable settlement to this issue. So we don't have to be afraid of industrial action now. We rather have to see how we quickly deal with these issues, look at the matters dispassionately, and then agree on the way forward. I think that's what is important.
And I need to state that what we brought our listeners and our viewers earlier is the letter that you've sent to for instance, the Employment Ministry and some other government agencies. Have you received any concrete response as of now from government on whether or not they're ready to engage you?
We've just come back from the weekend. I've been in meetings since morning. That's why I could not come to your studios as you requested. So I'm here to review the mails and things that I have received. But I believe definitely that's how we work. So far, they have not declined in engaging us in various matters or issues that we've had. So we believe that they are going to engage us. That's the spirit of social dialogue.
Right.
That's the spirit of negotiation. So we believe strongly with the kind of relationship we have with our stakeholders that they are definitely going to engage us, and we will definitely come to an agreement. So we are quite way far from an industrial action.
So I need to also point out that that meeting you're talking about, I guess, is the tripartite meeting, which we understand also borders on a lot of issues happening on the labor front. What's top on that agenda as well? How is that engagement going? And there are issues even about the minimum wage. That's another raging issue as well. How are all these negotiations going, and what's the position of the Public Services Workers Union?
All right, thank you so much. There are structures, even within organized labor and in the engagement with government. What you have just alluded to, the meeting you have just alluded to, is the National Tripartite Committee.
Right.
Unfortunately, I am not part of that committee. My Secretary General and Deputy at the TUC level are part of that committee.
Right.
It is after that committee's work that will come down to the Public Services Joint Standing Negotiating Committee, where I'm a member, where we will be looking at the base pay visa. So that is a process.
You're equally
also
asking for another rise?
Definitely.
It's almost as though, and sorry for cutting through, but it's almost as though you're lumping everything together and expecting government to deal with them in a space of days.
Yeah, so that is what we have. It so happens that all the issues have come up. We've tried to resolve some of them, and you agree with me, the 4% and 7%, the backlash that we received out of that, and what happened to Article 71 holders, the basis and the economic indicators and parameters under which we negotiated those things with government, thinking that they could keep inflation a single digit. All that has been thrown overboard. I mean, we are not really in control of our economy. So with the little challenges that are happening all over, our economy has taken a nose.
Yeah, so you're mindful of the economy, I guess.
If we have had an agreement on that, on the basis of certain economic parameters, and those things have changed, we need to come to the table and negotiate and discuss on how to handle that. But currently, as General Secretary of the Public Services Workers Union, the cry from our members is that there should be an increase.
Bernard, would have to leave it here. Thank you so much for joining us, General Secretary for the Public Services Workers Union.